Hi there, I'm Xavier. I'm back again, and today I'll be sharing on using CPF and or cash on your property. All right, this is a very interesting topic because this is one of the most common questions that I get from my customers on when to use what and what is the most efficient way, the most effective way to get the best returns out of it. All right, so without further ado, let me bring up the slides to show you. All right, here we are, the expert guide on using cash CPF for your residential property. I'll be sharing on the nature of both cash and CPF, what are the pitfalls of using both, and how to use it properly, and at the end, summarize everything with a step-by-step guide. Okay? So first up, I'll be sharing about the nature of cash and CPF by summarizing it into these 3 different points. Obviously, liquidity would be cash that has the advantage. You can access it via your wallet, ATM, your bank account very readily. But CPF, there's usually some time lag involved, right? Just a simple illustration, when you have sold your place, the cash proceeds is always 1 to 2 weeks earlier than the CPF proceeds. Okay? So usage, obviously, cash would be better because you can use cash for anything and everything. Whereas for CPF, and yes, CPF over here, I'll be talking about the CPF ordinary account. Okay, this amount, this account, you only can use it for a few purposes, right? Mainly for investments and for most Singaporeans, they're using it on their property. Okay, so you have to weigh the trade-offs when you're using either one of them. Lastly, of course, will be the opportunity cost, which correlates to what I've just mentioned. When you're using a lot of cash for your property, you know that you are tying up a lot of liquidity versus using it on other things. Okay, people are using CPF because they have maybe a bit more tight on their cash liquidity. And a point to note for opportunity cost is maybe a return you can get somewhere, right? If you're using too much of your cash on property, maybe your cash can be diverted. If you're very savvy in your investment, can be diverted to investment that's generating better returns. All right, so this is the opportunity cost. In other words, if I can paraphrase it, I would say it's the pull factor. All right, what are the better alternatives that you can use this cash or CPF for? All right, this is something to think about when you're looking at both of them. All right, next up will be the CPF effect on sale. I think this is very important. Probably some of you out there already know. This is a good revision and something to really keep an eye on, okay? Why this is important is because unknowingly your CPF may or may not be working hard for you, okay? Let's take a look at how we do it. Whenever we are looking into selling our place, whether it's a HDB or a private condo, all right, we always go through this cash proceeds calculation. It's a very simple calculation, but what you will notice here, all right, let me show you. Sale price, probably an estimated sale price over here, and then you have to subtract off your outstanding loan. Whether it's a HDB loan or it's a bank loan, you subtract that off, and then you also have to subtract your CPF that has been used in this property, because when you sell your place, this CPF has to be returned back into your CPF OA account, okay? And in addition, you have to minus away the accrued interest of the CPF that is used. This accrued interest is if this CPF is not used in this property and left in your CPF account, it would have earned that 2.5 interest in that whatever time period that you have used it for your property. All right, so it is like returning it back to your own account. All right, so this is actually the additional portion that you want to take note that will have effect on your property. So once you minus these 3 elements, you will get your gross cash proceeds. Okay, so the trick is here, because most of us, and this illustration is based on people using their CPF to service their monthly installment, using CPF to service their monthly installment. Okay, so you see, if this scenario, if the sale price of your property remains constant throughout a number of years, okay, this scenario, if it remains constant through a number of years, your outstanding loan and CPF will be cancelling out each other because you'll be using, all right, this scenario, you'll be using CPF to pay down for your monthly installment. So this one will cancel each other. So this will be constant, correct? But then this portion, the accrued interest that will be accumulating throughout the years will be increasing because this is 2.5% and it's compounded based on whatever that's been used over the years over here, right? So this one accrued interest will increase. So when you minus that off, you actually find that your gross cash proceeds will actually decrease even though your sales price remain constant. Okay. Then another point to note in this illustration is that this CPF that is used over here and the accrued interest that is being accumulated this 2.5% interest rate if the CPF is not being used over here and being left in the CPF OA account, it will also be generating 2.5% interest rate. But this 2.5 interest rate who is it generating from? Who is paying you that 2.5%? That's something to think about, because when you're using your CPF to pay for your property, this 2.5%, can you see, is coming from the property. Whereas now, if you have left it inside your CPF, this 2.5% actually is an additional 2.5% that comes from the government. All right, so it's something to take note of, because it's actually extra money, extra 2.5 that's coming from the government. The 2.5 that if you use it for your property, that 2.5% actually comes from your property. So in other words, if I sum it up, it's very important to take note that the property that you have right now, it must be something that is at least staying constant or must be growing. It cannot be something that's depreciating, because if it's something that's depreciating and you've been using a lot of CPF, you realize that it's very detrimental in terms of opportunity cost. Remember what I talked about just now? The opportunity cost, if it would have been left in the OA account, and you'll be getting 2.5% from the government, right? But I know if you're using CPF over here because of liquidity issue, you don't have much cash, right? You probably want to make sure that your property is working hard for you. If not, you realize that it's actually detrimental. You get a negative cash proceeds and you're losing out even more because you're not getting that 2.5 from the government. All right, I spent a bit more time over here. I hope I'm clear. All right, if you have any questions, again, please feel free to reach out to me to clarify. All right. So another point along this topic that a lot of people probably want to wrap their heads around is whether this property debt, or put it this way, this property debt, is it good to have property debt, or is it better to be debt free? All right, so if you understand my previous slide, the very elaborate illustration that I've done, I think a point to note, if you know the kind of property that you're sitting in, if it's not really going to appreciate, I mean, that's another topic on its own, all right, in terms of the capital appreciation potential of a property. You do not want to be too eager to redeem the property loan using CPF OA. All right, because I know probably at this period, most of us are not traveling, already have accumulated some amount of CPF savings, or even cash savings, things like that. You'll be very tempted to redeem the property loan. But if you're going to redeem too early, some people, I've met cases whereby the owners redeem their HDB loan using all their CPF, because probably there's some bonus along at the start. They redeem everything at the start. And then because the property that they bought in, it's not a appreciating property, when they want to sell probably 10 to 12 years later, they realize that they'll get a negative cash proceeds, because the accumulated interest has been increasing throughout while the price stay constant and even dropping. All right, so do not be too eager. And you can still leave it inside your own CPF OA to get that 2.5% interest rate. So what is a good guideline is probably if you feel that the interest rate that you are on the loan is very high, and you can use the CPF rate of 2.5% as a gauge, right? If it goes beyond that, then maybe you feel that you want to pay down. But again, you have to weigh based on what I say, a lot of other factors, the property growth, things like that. It may not be the best thing, okay? And if you're holding a HDB and you're still holding a HDB loan, I think it's one of the best time to refinance to a bank loan, because HDB loan, you know, is 2.6% interest rate, and bank loan is as low as what, 1.2% right now. I think this is one of the best time to take advantage of. It's more than two. It's you can see it's more than 2 times the difference. Well, because I understand if the HDB loan is 2.6%, maybe most people want to redeem it with the CPF that they have accumulated in their OA. I mean, that's understandable. But if you can take advantage of the current situation right now to refinance it to a bank loan which is low interest rate, you'll find that it is one of the best that you can get. I think the whole point about buying property in Singapore is that it comes with a form of leverage, and this leverage, it is a very safe leverage because almost everybody is having some kind of property loan, and the fact that the banks are giving 1.2 interest rate shows that it is a very safe asset. And if you don't take advantage of the current low interest rate environment, then it is not that wise. Because what you're able to do with this leverage is you free up cash. Okay, so a simple illustration is, if the interest rate right now is 1.2%, you're able to loan at 1.2% interest rate, and you've got excess cash that you can redeem the loan, you don't need to do that. All you have to do is probably put back into your CPF OA to get the 2.5%, and you see that you can gain an arbitrage difference of what, 1.3% gain. This is just a simple illustration, all right, to show what you should do with paying down or keeping cash around for better returns. Okay, so I hope this explains well. All right, so making your CPF work harder for your property. What you want to do, you want to assess your property probably on every 3 to 5 years, whether your property is stagnating. Do the proceeds calculation that I did earlier and weigh the opportunity cost. Your property is what I call the push factor. I always like to use this, the push factor. And then opportunity cost, is there better buys around? Is there things that you can diversify? That is the pull side of things, the opportunity cost. Because if you're sitting on it too long, you actually miss out on this. All right, it's always a tug of war between the push and pull factor. If you can understand and take advantage of both of them, if both your property has a push and also there's a good pull factor, then that would be the best situation. All right, so this is making your CPF, because your CPF, if it's stuck in the property just now that I mentioned, it's really not working hard for you. All right. So I come to the end, right? This is the last slide. I think this is the best slide that summarizes everything, right? When is best to use your CPF or cash? This is a step-by-step guide. All right, please follow me. So step 1, I think when you're buying a property at the start, remember I talked about the nature of it being the CPF being very illiquid in a sense, and there's not much usage. You probably want to use bulk of your CPF for the down payment as compared to cash. Because let's say a $1 million property, you're looking at a 25K down payment, 250K down payment, sorry. It's a one-time lump sum amount that you don't want to tie up all your cash. So if you, bearing in mind the nature of your CPF and cash, you probably want to use your CPF instead, right? Because I mean, of course, if you have tons of cash, then there's no problem. You don't know what to do with them. So you can use your cash for CPF. But if you are in that situation where you have the flexibility of both, neither here nor there, then I think this guide really works for you. Okay, level 2, right, is probably leave maybe just 20K in your OA. Don't clear everything, because if you know 20K in your OA will generate a higher interest rate of at least more than 1%, something along this line. So your 2.5 plus 1%, I think it's 3.5% on the first 20K of your OA. All right. Then, now, if you're very comfortable already, what I usually advise my clients is step number 3. All right. It's instead of using your CPF for your monthly repayment, use cash instead. Okay, you can always start off with using CPF, but when you have probably some savings and you're diligent enough to do some to save up, or your income has risen somewhat, you can slowly change more towards using cash. Not all at one time. It's very easy to change. All you have to do is go to cpf.gov.sg and you can just change the amount there. Or you can do it 50-50 at the start. And then eventually do it maybe 100% cash. You can actually exercise this kind of discipline and prudence that will build up even greater savings in your CPF account, and at the same time building up a very strong property portfolio. All right. So this is the level 3. Yes, and then a point to note is that at this, even for level 3, there's some flexibility. I want to point this out. Because say, touch wood, if you have lost your job or because certain circumstances, you cannot use your future cash for your monthly repayment already, you can always tap back to your CPF OA, right? They are always down there for you to use. You can even use that for lump sum payment, things like that, right? That I talk about. So that is flexibility and still at level 3. Now, if you are even more affluent, you have more cash lying around, what you can do, level 4. Remember, we use CPF for the down payment at the start. All right, so this comes back here. You already use cash for your full cash for your monthly repayment. You have excess cash. You can pay back your CPF OA that you have used for your down payment at the start with cash. Right, this again is just done through the e-service on the cpf.gov.sg. It's very, very easy. All right, this is level 4. So level 5, one more level, even more cash. All right, you want to maximize your savings. You want your CPF to work hard for you. You want your property to work hard for you. You want your property to be stress-free. Probably when you're at the later part of life cycle, you're into retirement mode, you have some good amount of excess cash, right? You can transfer your CPF OA that you have accumulated through this to your CPF SA. I think there's some limit, you have to check it out. But by doing this, you get a higher return from your CPF. Bear in mind, step 3, there's a flexibility, remember, but here it is irreversible. Once you do that to your SA, you cannot transfer your SA back to your OA. And because of that, you cannot use that amount of money for your property already, because you cannot use any money from SA to pay for your property related payments. Okay, so this is the highest level, but you will have, once you attain this, of course, there's a lot of discipline involved and there's a good amount of savings that you have accumulated, which is very, very good for you. All right, and it's probably something that we should all work towards. So we've come to the end of the sharing. I hope you've enjoyed it and importantly learned something out of it. Okay, please feel free to share this, spread the love around, and I'll hope to see you for the next one. All right, thank you and see you.